Have you ever wondered if the way you're writing your marketing emails is actually tanking your sales? Chances are it probably is. And after helping businesses grow their email marketing revenue to 6 figures per month, I have devised a simple method of writing emails in a way that people love to actually open, read, and buy from. And I'll be sharing exactly that method in this email. And I'll be sharing exactly that method in this video. So, there are two big mistakes people make when it comes to writing emails that people love to open, read, and buy from. And I'm going to explain what those mistakes are using the story of the Trojan horse. So you probably know the Trojan horse story, right? The Greeks invaded Troy with a wooden horse that was meant to be a gift. So let me draw my horse real quick. I don't know if this qualifies as a horse, but the Greeks invaded Troy with a wooden horse that was meant to be a gift to the Trojans after they fought wars for over 10 years. However, the problem was the Trojans accepted the gifts as a nice gesture from the Greeks. But unfortunately, we all know how that story ends. In the middle of the night, the soldiers that were hiding inside the Trojan horse came out and took over the city. Email marketing is sort of like that in a way, right? The thing is, there are two parts to every email. There are two parts to every business promotion. There's what the customer wants, which is what your content, or some people like to call it value. I don't really like that word. And the second is your promotion, which is your product or your offer or something of that sort, whatever it is you are selling. So there's the horse, the gifts that people want. However, there is the promotion, which is the soldiers that people don't technically want. Now, in our case, our soldiers are not going to take over your city. They're not going to harm you or anything. It's actually a good thing. Products change people's lives. But they are the promotion and the products that, if we present it ordinarily, it may not be as accepted. And what we need is a strategy sort of like the Trojan horse, where you're able to merge them in a way where they are more readily accepted by your prospects and your customers. And this brings me to the first mistake people make when it comes to writing emails that people actually want to open, read, and buy from. And the mistake is in two ways. One, it is people are always either sending only content or value, however you want to put it, right? And they just continue to send that in hopes that one day when they sell, they are going to make money. And that's a very, very misguided approach, right? And I'll touch on that in a bit. But the second is people are always only sending pitches and promotion, right? And again, this can work, but it is usually very, very short term. And these are the two mistakes most people make when it comes to email marketing. Most people either only send content without selling or only send promotion with no content. And what you want is closer to the Trojan horse. It's closer to the Trojan horse approach, where you are able to merge both of them in a way where both of them are more readily acceptable. Right? The problem with sending only content is that in a lot of ways, you train your customers how to treat you. Meaning, if they see you as someone who only ever sends content with nothing to sell. Now, I'm talking about specifically with email, right? It can work better in other mediums. But with email, what I found out from my experience working with a lot of businesses is if you are in that cycle of content with nothing to sell, you don't convert as well when it's time to promote, because people don't expect that. Sometimes they actually even get angry at you for pitching and for selling. And without trying to add anything to the customers, it can work in the short term, but you will risk burning them out. And after a couple of months, you'll find out that people are leaving your lists, people are not purchasing as much. And what you want is that our Trojan horse approach, right? Where you're able to merge both of them in a way that is more readily acceptable. And you you need to do it in a way where people can't say where the content ends and where the promotion starts. And I think a better explanation for that would be creating a smoothie, right? So everybody knows how to create a smoothie. And let's assume I am creating a banana. So is this a banana? Forgive my banana. So a banana smoothie with, let's say, mango. This looks like pear, so sort of mango smoothie, right? The idea now is you don't want a fruit salad, right? You don't want a situation whereby you have the banana cuts and you have pieces of mango and I can tell which of them is which. What you want is a smoothie where you have the banana and the mango in such, what's the word? In such consistency that you can't tell where the banana begins and where the mango begins. And that's the idea that we are going for. We want to write emails in such a way where people can't tell where is content and where is promotion. It is merged in such a way that it is valuable but also sells on your product or service. And that is what my system helps you do. But before I get into the system, I want to show you there are 4 archetypes when it comes to writing emails. And people usually fall under one of these. And I will show you what those 4 archetypes are. So there are 4 archetypes when it comes to writing emails. And most people fall under one of these. So you're either a teacher, a stylist, a personality, or a salesman. And I'm going to explain what each of them is. So the teacher is the person who only ever teaches, right? Like I've explained. You only ever teach, you give value, but you don't actually sell anything. And an example of that, which as you can see on screen, let me bring out the iPad, is Andy Frisella. Now, Andy Frisella is a great businessman. I can't take anything from him. He's far more successful than I am. But his emails are constant value emails. He rarely ever sells in his emails. And that is good because his business doesn't depend on email. Your own business likely depends on emails. So you can't follow that exactly. Right? As you can see on screen, this is an example of his email. Make it your mission today. And if you read through that, it's just talking about how there's an opportunity to spend time with people and it's giving you value with nothing to sell. That's the first archetype. The second archetype, let's talk about the salesman. The salesman is the person who constantly sends you promotional pitches, but rarely ever gives you something that you want, a valuable piece of information, a nugget, something you can learn from. And an example of this would be digitalmarketer.com. Now, I don't know how they send emails now. It's run by Ryan Dyson, who is also a great businessman. I can't take anything away from him. I don't know how their emails are now, but I used to be on their list around 2020, and it was constant pitch. Like for 3 weeks in a row, it was constant pitch every day or every other day. And eventually I unsubscribed because I wasn't getting any value from it. That is an example of the salesman. The third example is the stylist, and this is typically what you see with e-commerce brands. This archetype is the kind of person who sends you beautiful emails with a lot of pretty graphics and all of that, and they almost treat their emails like a work of art. As you can see on the screen, there's the Adios email where you can see it's very pretty. You have the green background, the yellow, the pictures, all of that. Very good. You also have the Verb email where you can see it's highly designed, almost like a flyer. That's your stylist. And it is an approach of writing emails. The problem with the stylist is it takes a lot of time and effort. And design in itself doesn't sell as well. You need the copy, you need the writing side of it to do the selling. And if you write and then it takes an hour or 2 hours to design, you're just slowing down your process, especially if you are a small business. So the system I use is the personality-based email archetype, where you are writing emails, very simple emails like you would write to a friend, but it is heavily based on your own lived experience, your personal experience, and your personality, hence the name. You'll find out that most people are a mix of all of this. It's not a clean cut. You are usually a mix of everything. But the problem, or where things work out, is you need to lean heavily into one side more than the other. So I'll show you what it looks like. So if you take a look at this, you can see that the personality has the highest points. Like if this is on a 10-point system, personality probably has 10 points. The stylist probably has about 4 points. Salesman, about 4-5 points. Teacher, about maybe 3 or 4 points. And that's sort of the idea, right? My emails lean heavily towards personality. The system I use for my clients and I teach lean heavily towards personality. But it doesn't mean you cannot explore the other. So some people might want to do more of teaching, right? So it might be an 8 out of 10 on the teacher archetype. But the idea is you need to lean heavily into towards the personality if you really, really want to write emails that people love to open, read, and buy from. So how do you write personality-based emails? So personality-based emails typically have a 5-part structure. And some parts can be missing in certain emails, but this is the basic structure of personality-based emails. You have a subject line, you have an intro, you have a story, you have a lesson, and you have an offer. And where the magic happens is somewhere in between here. Remember where I told you that we don't want to create a fruit salad that is very distinct. We sort of want to merge it where you can't say where the lesson ends and where the offer begins. And you need to be able to do that within this section. But this is the basic structure of a personality-based email. And I'll show you an example. So let me bring in the iPad. As you can see on your screen, this is an example of an email I wrote that is very, very, very personality-based. So you can see the title and it says LA Artists Taps into Powerful Marketing Secrets. Now, your subject line, I'm not going to go too much into that in this video, right? But basically what you just want to do is you want to induce curiosity. And this email was part of a series I had been sending. So like it sort of made sense to my subscribers. Then you now get into the story, right? Intro first, then story. So intro, you can see 2 days ago, I wrote about just how powerful dramatic demonstration can be for conjuring up new sales for your business. If you want to see a real life example of this, you have to check out Harry Mark on YouTube. That's the end of my intro, just 2 lines. Then we now move into the story. Who is Harry Mark? What does he do? So we now get Harry Mark is a freestyle rapper who does a lot of shows where he meets random people on the streets and asks them to give him a random word suggestion. He raps about it with no preparation, and it is cool to see him work his magic. He has several years of footage of him doing this. Now here's the part that interests you. So we are sort of getting into the lesson here. Doing this has gotten him on MSNBC, TNT, all of that. It has also gotten him to the room with NBA stars, celebrities, all of that. Even more, it has helped him launch his own independent record. And that is the power of dramatic demonstration. Now we are fully in the lesson. So do you see the progression? That's the power of dramatic demonstration. If you can show people you're extremely good at what you do, now I'm expanding on the lesson, without coming off as a show-off, they will more readily hand you their hard-earned moolah. Now, there are several ways to do this. Then I go into examples. And I say, as you can see, there are several ways to skin these cats. Combine dramatic demonstration with proper email marketing. You can see I'm bridging into the offer. And your sales can easily double or triple before you realize it. If you need help with email marketing side of things, now I'm fully in the offer. Then my agency, Icon Media, is currently taking clients who handle the writing, scheduling, and managing of your email marketing while you focus on other things. So you can see, how did I do? I started with an intro, told them about the power of dramatic demonstration that I'd been teaching them in previous emails. I went into the story of Harry Mark, went into the lessons of how his business has grown because of dramatic demonstration, and then I went into the offer. So you can see this simple structure where you can merge contents, the value, our Trojan horse, our smoothie analogy. You can merge the value, but also bring in the promotion in a way where it is appealing to people. They want to open, they want to read, and they want to buy from your email. So that's the basic structure. It's simple, maybe even too simple, but it works. Now, I want to show you 3 examples or 3 categories of emails you can apply this structure to for you to make more sales with your emails. So we'll get into that now. So I want to show you 3 categories of emails you could write using this 5-part personality-based email structure. And that's, you can write a personal experience email. You can challenge industry norms in an email. I can also write a problem email. So here's an example of a personal experience email. And a personal experience is just an email where you narrate a personal experience that has helped you or something that happened to you and a lesson you can learn for your readers. You narrate that in an email. So here's an example from Ramit Sethi. If you don't know Ramit Sethi, he does a lot of personal finance, also does business growth, personal income, that kind of thing. And he has an email newsletter. So all the examples I'm showing you, all of them lean heavily into one of those 4 archetypes. So it's up to you to notice that. But I'm just using this as an example to see the different categories we can use. Not all of them are fully personality based, but then they lean into some of the archetypes. So you can see the email from Ramit Sethi. Fola, I loved my 20s and 30s, but I spent differently in my 40s. Remember, that's the intro. I spent differently in my 40s. If I could go back in time and tell 24-year-old Ramit one piece of advice, it would be to have more fun. So all of that first paragraph is the intro, like we explained. Now, he now went below. I am sharing some ways I spend my money differently. By the way, this is specific to me. You won't have to spend money the same. This is the part that is meant to be your own story. Now, in his own case, he's giving some lessons or the way he spends money differently. Serves as a story. First, I spend money on things that 25-year-old Ramit would have considered frivolous. Second, I spend less on going out. Third, I became more politically active and used my money to support causes that are important to me. Fourth, I hire coaches, trainers, and consultants and advisors. Fifth, I set bigger milestones for myself. All of those fall under what? The story. Now, we get to the lesson. And he, in his own, he clearly outlined, he said, my biggest takeaway looking back on spending changes. You don't have to outline it this way. It can sort of like flow, as you'll see in some of the other examples. But then he points out his own biggest takeaway. There's a season of life for spending money. I don't spend a lot on bars anymore, but I'm so glad I did in my 20s and 30s. That was the peak time to go out with friends in SF and NYC. So his lesson now is there's a time to spend a lot of money in a certain way, and he's bringing that to the reader's attention. After, he just asked, what's something you thought you would never spend on that you do now? So now he got into what? The story and the lesson. But do you notice that there's no offer here? So he didn't have an offer. And again, like I said in the beginning, you can remove some of these and replace it or don't include it at all. But then a full email usually has those 5 parts. So in Ramit's example now, there's no offer. But let me show you another example of an email I wrote. So as you can see on the screen, the $250 call that led to $25K in revenue. So I was telling a story. Sometime last year, I was getting my hands dirty with cold emails. Intro. I had some campaigns up and running and was getting some results. But somewhere along the line, I needed very specific advice. Again, giving them the intro, the context. Now I'm getting into the story. So I did what every smart business owner does. I paid the king of entertaining cold emails, John Bunkan, $250 for an hour of advice. Now I'm getting into the story. His advice was not out of this world. It was simple things I overlooked. Fast forward to today, I can track over $25,000 in revenue that came from the simple advice he gave me. Now I'm getting into the lesson, sort of. That is 100x ROI on my measly investment of $250. Now I'm getting into the lesson fully. Sometimes it's not more information we need. We need strategic advice based on our situation. This is still the lesson. Here's why I say this. I'll be holding a training soon. Now I'm merging into the offer. I'm bridging into the offer. I will be holding a training soon. And after the training, you get the opportunity to ask whatever questions you have regarding email marketing, automation, copywriting, all of that. That may be your own opportunity to get strategic advice that grows your business. Referencing the story I told earlier, in order to build my training to serve you, I want to know what struggles, concerns, or questions do you have about growing revenue through email marketing? What do you struggle with most when it comes to email marketing? I am undecided whether or not the training will be free, but if the training is paid, everyone who gives me good responses to the above questions will get the training for free. So hit me up. Here, I didn't have a traditional offer. I was not selling a product or a service, but I had an ask. I wanted them to send in questions, and that is my offer here. So you can see the bridge. You can see the 5-part structure in a personal experience setting where you tell a story about yourself and then give a lesson, bridge into the offer, ask for the sale. So that's the personal experience email. Second type of email, they're challenging industry norms. Again, follows the same 5-part process. So let's look at this example from Dan Martell. Now, if you don't know who Dan Martell is, successful business owner, started with software products, SaaS, and started doing some SaaS coachings and all of that. But today, he's more into AI and productivity and all of that. This is an email from him. And it says, why hard work failed me. Now, that is why it is challenging industry norms. Because the big thing in our industry is you need to work hard. You need to work harder. You need to work even harder than your hardest. So, this is Dan Martell challenging that norm. And it goes, hey, fella, it's 7:03 p.m. on a Tuesday night. You're stuck in the office. And your family finished eating dinner without you. Again. All because you needed 5 more minutes. That is what? Story. In this, there's no intro. He jumped straight into the story. The truth is, you're trying to build the best life you can, but you're stuck on a treadmill, hustling hard, and the scenery never changes. The exact cycle is what cost me my fiance in my 20s, and I promised myself I would never do it again. I tried all the hacks to check off the to-do lists, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was the person behind the to-do list. Now, he's bridging from the story into the lesson. He's already hinting at, okay, the story is ending. The problem is not the to-do list. It is the person behind the to-do list. The taxes didn't change, or the taxes didn't need to change. I did. The realization is what built my 5 daily non-negotiables. Now, this is still part of the lesson, but if he was selling something, which he is not, or he's sort of selling something, he's going to be bridging into the offer now. So, a simple daily system to upgrade my identity, become your 10.0 version, to make your progress inevitable without sacrificing everything. This same system has helped thousands of entrepreneurs, designed to help you become the entrepreneur your business needs to scale while making space for what matters. If you are done living life for your business and want a business that serves you, reply with the word coach and I'll reach out to see if it's a fit. So you can see how we bridge from the lesson. The lesson is, it is not the to-do list, it is the man behind the to-do list. And now he bridged into his offer. He has designed a system, the 5 daily non-negotiables, and if you want that, you can send him reply and he'll reach out to you. That is challenging industry norms, but it also follows the same 5-part structure. Now let's take another example. This is an email I wrote, and the subject line is stupid email marketing practices I loathe. And that's just challenging industry norms. There are practices that everybody says you should do that I just hate. I don't think it makes sense. It doesn't work in my experience. Now, intro. They say there's nothing new under the sun, but there sure seems to be some new stupid trick in the email marketing world every other day. Some new tactic that supposedly increases open rates, sales, or click-through, even as their readers see through the tricks and lose respect for them. Intro again. Challenging industry norms is my intro. Anywho, here are some of such tricks I have heard about and absolutely loathe. Now I'm getting into the story, but it's not so much a story as it is a list of things I don't like. Now, I talk about sending emails at the best time. I don't like that. It doesn't work. Using emojis in your subject line. Shallow thinking. Resending emails to unopens. Laziness, essentially. Infusing the almighty AI into your emails. Right? And that's just hating on people that use AI in emails. I feel like that's very, very lazy. And now, once we get to that, if you scroll down, you say, of course, this is the big crave right now. Every email marketer is shilling AI like it's some magic dust that will turn their flavorless, lackluster piece of copy into a masterclass. Maybe I am doing something wrong, but in my experience, it doesn't do a very good job at copy, especially not email copy, since your email should be very personality-based. Again, what I'm teaching you. I.e., you should write from your experience, thoughts, observations, etc. if you want to build a strong, loyal reader base and buyer base. Now, I'm getting to the end of my lesson. This is the story plus lesson. Now I'm bridging into the offer. But hey, every man to himself, innit? You can do whatever you want. But if you love making sales, now this is my lesson. If you love making sales, you need to do yourself a favor and learn how to write profitable emails. Now I bridge into my offer. Like I mentioned yesterday, I'll be launching a toolkit soon that can guide you on writing profitable emails faster. But in the meantime, Icon Media helps clients day in and day out with their email marketing. Now, this is my offer in its full form. Meaning we help you create a strategy around email marketing, we help you implement the strategy, and we manage everything that it entails. So if you loved for your business, then let's have a chat. And I put the link there. So you can see the 5-part structure playing out in an email that challenges industry norms. Now let's go to the third category of email I have here. And that's the problem email. And I'll only give one example of this. You can see this, as you can see on your screen, this email is from Pat from Starter Story. Starter Story is like a publishing business where they publish stories of successful entrepreneurs and how they became successful, and then there's a lot of information around that. And he's telling a story here that every serious business owner probably has had to face at some point. And the subject line, very catchy, says, how is that little startup going? Which is something that every business owner can sort of relate to. And then it starts. The first Thanksgiving after I quit my job to start my business was brutal. That's intro, context. When did this happen? First Thanksgiving after quitting his job to start business. My drunk uncle kicked things off with a bang. So Pat, how is that little startup going? I started telling everyone how excited I was about it, blah, 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 blah. My mom ended the conversation with the all-time zinger. Well, once you're done with that, you can go back to your real job. Again, this is the story. And pretty much everybody reading this can relate to it. They understand what it feels like for people not to believe in your dream. And then, I love you, mom, but damn, that stung. Even she didn't get it. See, if you're building a business, now it's getting into the lesson. If you're building a business, you're likely the outcast at the table. Nobody gets what you're doing. You seem like the crazy one. But here's the thing. It's okay if they don't get it. Now it's fully in the lesson. You should build anyway. And just in time for the holidays, now he's bridging into the offer. Just in time for the holidays, we are running an insane lifetime deal on Starter Story. Crazy, I know. Our pre-sale sold out fast. And on, you get to sign up here to get notified. And that is the offer. So you can see the 5-part structure in all these emails. And this is what a personality-based email looks like. You have your intro, your story, your lesson, your offer. Intro, story, lesson, offer. It's 5 parts. Intro, story, lesson. What am I forgetting? Oh, your subject line. Sorry. I'm so confused. Subject line, intro, story, lesson, offer. And this is the personality-based email system that's generated over 6 figures in revenue for my clients month after month after month. If you implement it, even though it seems simple, if you implement it, I can assure you, you'll see your sales go up. However, writing emails is just one piece of the puzzle. There are a lot of other things you have to do before writing, after writing, to ensure your email revenue grows as fast, as consistent as you want it. And if you want to learn about my email marketing system, going from A to Z, that brings in over 7 figures in revenue for my clients, watch this video here.